Hi, this is part 1 of my 6-part tutorial for the Darkness Any%. In this video, I'll be covering general speedrun concepts and discussing game mechanics in relation to Any%. And now the first thing to cover before we even get into the game is which console you choose to run on. In order from fastest to slowest, your choices are Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One X, Xbox One, RPCS3 emulator, Xbox 360, and PS3. I don't know if the Darkness works with the Xenia 360 emulator yet. The last time I tried it, the game crashed as soon as I tried to load a new game. I mean, maybe it's working now. If it is, I imagine it loads similarly to RPCS3, but I don't know. All the difference in time between these consoles just comes down to the loading. The newer consoles allow you to skip the loading screen monologues way faster than 360 and PS3. Otherwise, there's no gameplay difference between the consoles. The next thing we want to cover before we even get into the game are the options. There are a lot of things in here that I think you should absolutely have set a certain way, a lot of other things that are just personal preference. I suggest that if you want to run this game, you play around with as much of these options as you can, figure out what works best for you. So the first thing we want to look at here is the control scheme. I actually use default controls 2 because that places the jump button on A and the use button on X, which I find is nice to have close to the right stick, especially if you're doing a lot of strafe jumping, which I'll get into later. You can just use the default controls. There's nothing wrong with that. You can use left-handed Guzman if you want. You can use classic. You can use any of that. It's up to you. Next thing to look at here would be sensitivity. I have mine just kind of set to the middle. You can set it higher or lower. I find that it's good to have it at least a little bit high so that you can make turns quickly, but maybe if you want to aim better, you can have it lower, I don't know. And then in the advanced controls menu, I don't understand what a lot of this stuff does, to be completely honest with you. I don't know why there are separate sensitivities from the previous one. I like to have the acceleration here just because that's what I'm used to. I like to be able to turn the camera for longer and be moving faster. I have the auto aim set all the way up because auto aim will save your ass in this game because it's very hard to aim on controller, in my opinion. Free look, I don't know what this is. I've just turned it up all the way because I like looking free. I have no idea what this slider does. I have messed with it for so long trying to figure out what it does. I have no idea. The next thing you're going to want to change is in the game menu, turn tutorials off. This is going to help you in one specific place at the very start of the run, and that's it. But it's worth it. And then in subtitles, you should probably turn all of them on so that you can use them for cues, like seeing if an enemy has noticed you, seeing if a Darkling has spawned, seeing if an NPC has started their voice line. It's very useful to have all of these on because they give you more information that you'll need in the run. So the first thing to cover in-game is just your basic movement. There are a couple different ways to move in this game, all of which have varying speeds and applications, places where they're the best to use, places where they're a little more difficult. So we'll go over that here. The one thing that you should never do is walk forward in a straight line. Don't walk forward, don't walk straight left, don't walk straight right. Don't walk backwards, unless you have to. Unless you're aiming at an enemy, don't do this. Walking is pretty much the slowest form of movement in this game other than crouch walking, which you should also never be doing unless you absolutely have to. Rather than walking forward, what you should be doing is walking diagonally. Strafing like this will give you a much faster movement speed overall. But what's even faster than strafing is strafe jumping. This is a technique that involves jumping while your stick is diagonal and moving it throughout your jump to the other diagonal. So for instance, here, I would move my stick to the top left and jump, and as soon as I jump, start moving it towards the top right. And that looks like this. And then here, where my stick would be top right, I'll jump and move it to top left. This method of movement is slightly faster than strafing, very, very slightly faster, and combines the practicality of walking forwards with the speed of strafing. So here's what that looks like on an actual controller. So I'll set up here looking where I want to go, and then Just like this. Moving between the two top diagonals on the controller. Since strafe jumping is timed with the height of your jump so that when you land, you're on one of the two diagonals, that means that if you go up a slope, like a set of stairs, you have to do it faster. So here, I have to move the stick faster as I go up, and if I'm going down, I have to move it slower. It takes a bit of getting used to, but eventually it'll become second nature. The final and fastest kind of movement is prop flying. Prop flying is a trick that I'll get into a little bit later in this video, but the basic gist of it is using the demon arm to grab an object like these barrels or these pallets. I'll use one of these because they're a little bit bigger. Jumping on it, grabbing it with the demon arm, and jumping. This allows you to move much, much faster than any other kind of movement in the game. However, it is dependent on there being open space, a prop for you to use, and not really a lot of lights so that you don't immediately run out of darkness energy. It's very situational. There aren't many places where you can take advantage of it, but when you can, it's always best to do it because it is much, much faster than strafe jumping. Something to be careful with strafe jumping is making sure that you don't hit your head on anything, because that will stop your momentum immediately, and it's not going to be any faster than if you had just strafed through instead. This also applies to anywhere that has a low enough ceiling that you'll be hitting your head every time you jump. This actually isn't a good example because I think you get a full jump here. Yeah. But anywhere that you're hitting your head on the ceiling, you shouldn't be strafe jumping because you're not going to be gaining any speed from it. Also, just a quick little tip. When you're waiting for the trains in this game, you should wait pretty close to the edge because there's a trigger around here where if you're standing here, the train will arrive. If you're standing too far back, it just won't show up. So make sure you're as close to the tracks as you can be without being in risk of getting hit by the train. You can stand on the tracks if you want to, but there does run a little risk that you might get hit by the train if you stop paying attention when it comes, so just don't do that. Also, when going through a crouch section, I'll use this as an example, since I can't stand here while crouched. If you're going through anywhere in the game where you have to crouch to get through, it's a good idea to immediately press crouch again so that as soon as you get out of it, you stand right up. If you don't do that, then you'll exit and still be crouched and have to manually stand up again. The last thing to know about movement is that anytime you get shot by an enemy and you don't have darkness energy to protect yourself, you will go flying, especially if you're in the air. You should absolutely be using that to your advantage wherever possible. Next, I'd like to cover the different kinds of guns in the game. The first guns that you get, and the ones that I use for most of the run, are the pistols. The pistols are a little bit weak. They'll take quite a few body shots to kill enemies. However, they will kill almost any enemy with one headshot. If the enemy has some kind of like helmet on, like a SWAT guy, they might take 2 shots, but any other enemy in the game will die with 1 headshot. If you manage your ammo correctly and pick up enough pistols throughout the run, you'll generally always have them, so they're always available. The guns fire pretty much as fast as you can pull the trigger. You can't go super fast, but it's fast enough that they are pretty much useful for almost any situation. The next weapons are the SMGs. These fire much faster and are extremely inaccurate. I think they might have a little more damage than the pistols. I'm not really sure. I've always just kind of considered them to be faster firing pistols that are great close range and terrible anywhere else. Next weapon is the shotgun. It's decently powerful. I wouldn't say it's super powerful. And is very, very inaccurate at range, of course. It's pretty good if you're right up next to an enemy, but it does fire pretty slowly. I honestly don't use the shotgun a whole lot in the run. The next weapon is the riot shotgun. You don't get too many of these in the run, but they're very, very powerful. They're basically an auto-fire shotgun that is, again, very inaccurate at range, but extremely deadly and pretty useful at certain points in the game where you're doing a lot of fighting. And finally, the last 2 weapons I want to talk about together, and they are the AK and the tactical rifle. These weapons have the exact same damage. However, the AK is a little bit inaccurate and fires faster. The tactical rifle is very accurate, but fires a bit slower than the AK. Once you have access to the tactical rifle and you have more than just one or two in reserve, I suggest using these pretty much wherever you can. They kill in a couple of body shots, and again, just like the pistols, kill in one headshot. They're very, very good. Pretty much the best gun in the game. However, if you're in a situation where you want to be using a rifle, but you don't have enough tactical rifles, the AK is generally a very good replacement, but you do have to be a bit closer to get good use of it. When you're in chapters 2 or 4, you have a different set of guns. Pistols that function the exact same as the ones in the regular world, and this single-shot rifle. The rifle is pretty powerful and can kill most enemies with a single shot to the chest. Pistols, again, are very low damage, but very high firing rate. Generally, I use the pistols because having such a long delay between shots on the rifle is very awkward and just not helpful in a lot of sections in these chapters. One thing to note with guns in this game is that when you're right up close to an enemy, rather than shooting them, you'll perform an execution kill. And that looks like this. They're a bit slow, but they don't use any ammo, so they can be nice if you're really tight on ammo. However, they cannot be performed if you have no ammo, so make sure you are not running out completely if you're going to try to use an execution kill. One thing to note about execution kills is that if you have Creeping Dark as your selected darkness power, you can actually cancel the execution kill by pressing the right bumper twice. That enters and exits Creeping Dark and immediately ends the execution animation. Also, when shooting an enemy, you should always wait until your auto aim has locked on before you shoot. As you can see here, the red dot is stuck to this cop's head, so now whenever I shoot, she's dead. If you start shooting too early, it won't have time to lock on, and you'll just be shooting right beside the enemy. So always make sure that you're locked on to what you want to be shooting. Also, something to keep in mind with the guns in this game is that they are not hit scan. There is actually a small bullet projectile that gets shot out every time anybody in this game shoots. So if you're shooting an enemy that's far away, you have to keep that in mind and compensate for it. It doesn't really come into play a whole lot, but it is something good to keep in mind. Next up, I want to talk about the darkness, specifically the energy and the shield that the energy provides you. As I'm sure you know from playing the game, your energy is represented by the color on the darkness snakes on the side of the screen. When you walk in light, they dim a bit and decrease. When you walk back into darkness, they absorb darkness, and when it's full, it becomes bright again. Something that's important to note is that if you do not have the darkness pulled out, and you stand in the light, you will not lose darkness energy. I can stand here for as long as I want, go back out, and still have full energy. It only drains if you have the darkness pulled out. Similarly, if you're standing in light and you don't have any darkness energy, your darkness gets put away, and you move back into the darkness, you will not gain darkness energy until you pull the darkness back out. The snakes have to be on screen for these interactions to take place. Something important about darkness energy to always keep in mind in combat encounters is that when you have the darkness pulled out and you have energy to spare, taking damage will damage your energy instead of your health. You don't have much health when you don't have the darkness out, and increasing your darkness level will allow you to basically have more health overall. However, something to keep in mind is that if you do have darkness energy, you will not get boosted by enemy shots. So if you're trying to get a boost from an enemy, you have to put away the darkness or you have to be out of energy. When you kill an enemy after receiving the darkness, you gain the option to eat their heart. This serves two purposes. One is that certain heart levels will eventually increase your darkness level. Your darkness level affects two things. It affects how much darkness energy you have available and how strong some of your darkness powers are. Specifically, Black Hole is very strongly affected by the darkness level. The other purpose that hearts serve, and that you'll generally be using them for throughout the speedrun, is fully restoring your darkness energy. One heart will always bring you to full energy no matter your darkness level and no matter how low you are. They're very useful to pick up in the middle of fights, or when running through brightly lit areas that you don't have time to darken. Next, I'd like to talk about the darkness powers. We're going to start with the first one, Creeping Dark. This is a little snake that you can send out to, you know, kind of do recon, open doors from behind, such as the one here at Grinder's Lane, the one at Dutch Oven Harry's, and a couple other instances throughout the game. It can be used to sneak up on enemies and kill them without them even knowing that you're there. Hitting right trigger in front of an enemy will instantly kill them with a 1-second animation. You can also eat hearts while in Creeping Dark, but I actually suggest that you don't unless you absolutely have to, or you're waiting for something else to happen, because the animation is twice as long when you're in Creeping Dark and you can't cancel out of it. In general, you don't really want to be using Creeping Dark unless you absolutely have to continue the run. Also, another reminder that if you accidentally perform an execution kill and you want to get out of it quicker, you can just enter and exit Creeping Dark very quickly and it will cancel the execution animation. But you have to have Creeping Dark equipped. The next darkness power to talk about is the Demon Arm. Demon Arm is a one-hit kill on any enemy in the game. As long as you're close enough in range, it'll lock right onto them. The arm will also lock on to lights, taking them out. And the arm will also lock on to any object like this and allow you to pick up and move it around. This is what enables prop flying, which again, I will get into later. Objects like this are generally the lowest priority for the Demon Arm, and enemies are the highest. So if an enemy is standing right next to a prop like this, you will almost always grab onto the enemy instead of the prop. Lights are kind of in between. So it's more likely that it will hit a light than a barrel, but it's more likely that it will hit an enemy than a light. This is one of the most useful darkness powers in the game, and you'll probably be using it throughout almost the entire run. The next power is the darkness guns that have kind of a strong one on the left and a weaker, faster firing gun on the right. And they use darkness energy to fire. Never, ever use these. There is no reason to ever use the darkness guns, except for one time that I use them in the run that you don't even have to use them for. Just don't. There's no reason to use this. The last and most powerful darkness power is the black hole, which works by just sending out a black hole that continually does damage to enemies and also kind of stuns them in an animation where they're trying to avoid getting sucked up. And once they have taken enough damage from the black hole, they get sucked up into it. I think the closer they are, the more damage they take. I'm not 100% sure on that. But this does mean that you can speed up the process of enemies getting sucked into the black hole by shooting them as they're in that animation. As I mentioned before, the black hole gets stronger the higher your darkness level is, so once you reach level 5, for instance, it becomes a very big black hole that is very, very powerful. At darkness level 2, which is what I end the game at, it's moderately powerful, but for later game enemies, it will require you shooting them a little bit before they'll get sucked up into it. The black hole is a very, very useful tool, but it can be a bit risky because every time you use it, it continues until your darkness energy is drained all the way. And if you're in the middle of combat, you're going to have to find a heart very quickly because it's not likely that you'll be able to get any more darkness energy in time. And it can create a situation where you can't really do a whole lot and you just die because you don't have any protection in the middle of the fight. You have to know when to use it. Next up, I want to talk about the Darklings, not so much specific uses, I'll get into that when I do chapter-specific videos, but I want to talk about their general usefulness in combat. Of course, they're very good at killing enemies, but what they're also good for, that I don't think a lot of people would realize, is a distraction. Sometimes you can summon a Darkling and just run straight by a combat encounter, because most of the enemies will focus the Darkling instead of you. As for the specific usefulness of Darklings, I would say the least useful is Kamikaze, because really they're only going to get 1 or 2 kills if enemies are grouped up. And even then, I find sometimes they just don't kill an enemy, even if they explode right next to them. And then they're gone, so they can't even distract that enemy anymore. Berserker is kind of like Kamikaze, but a bit more useful. They'll jump up onto the enemies and in a long animation, kind of clawing them, which will kill them. And they stay alive after that, so that they can still be used as a distraction. But again, their damage output isn't very much, and they get locked into a long animation when killing, so only use them if you already have Light Killer and Gunner already summoned. Light Killer can be pretty good. It'll generally instant kill enemies or do a lot of damage to them with the electricity, and they'll stay around for a while. Sometimes I find they don't really do as much in combat as I want them to, but they can be good to have, especially in the church shootout. What I would consider the unequivocal best Darkling to summon for most situations is the Gunner. The Gunner is the only long-range Darkling, has a very fast firing rate, isn't very accurate at range, but will generally hit shots at medium to close range and can kill enemies very, very quickly. Can also show you where enemies are, like maybe you haven't noticed an enemy. The Gunner will start shooting at him long before you even notice them. In general, I would say that Gunner is the one to summon in most situations. An important thing to note about Darklings is that when they're summoned, you can move them around by pressing, with the default control scheme, it is X, and with default control scheme 2, which is the A button to jump control scheme, it will be Y. So you just press that button and they'll walk right to wherever you're pointing. This can be very useful for directing them to things that you want them to do, like things to interact with, or just better places for them to shoot the enemy. Because the Gunner in particular has a bad habit of kind of staying in one place and shooting at walls rather than repositioning to better fight enemies, so it's important that they're in the right spot. So next I want to talk about just the basic mechanics of prop flying and how to get a decent amount of speed from it. Prop flying is, of course, you grab a prop with the demon arm and jump, but that alone is not enough to get you anywhere. As you can see right here, I'm barely moving anywhere. I'm kind of falling off the barrel. I'm not touching the stick right now or anything. This is just me mashing the jump button. Like, we're kind of moving forward, but not really getting anywhere. It's using so much energy that by the time I even get over this gap here, I would run out of energy and die. The two main things that influence the speed of a prop fly are your speed when you initiate it and your camera. If you're looking straight down, the demon arm is going to try to place the barrel directly under you. So you don't really go anywhere. You kind of move a little bit forward. But as you can see here, as I move the camera up, I slowly start gaining more speed. Now, it gets a little bit harder to control as I do that, but that's just kind of a trade-off that you learn to work with the more prop flying you do and the more comfortable you get with it. The other thing, your initial speed is a bit more advanced because a lot of the time you're doing prop flying, you're on a very small object. You don't really have a lot of space to get a running start. And even if you do get a running start, sometimes it gives you so much speed that it's just not really worth trying to continue. That one I actually think was fine, but sometimes you can get one so fast where the barrel flies out from under you and it's just not really sustainable. The more that you practice this trick, the better you will get at spotting when you can continue something like that. But even for me, sometimes it just gets completely out of control and there's not a whole lot I can do about it. This is a very difficult trick. It will take you a lot of practice to get good at this. All right, this is my 50th attempt at this, so it better work this time. I'm gonna try to do the Chapter 2 prop fly and explain as best I can what I'm doing as I do it. So the first thing I do is position at the front of the barrel because I find this to be the easiest place to initiate this prop fly from. I look almost straight down, a little bit up, want to keep the barrel on screen at the very least. Next, I'm going to grab the barrel and a bit after that, move forward and jump, almost immediately, but not quite. The demon arm input has to come first. So grab, move forward, jump. And as you can see, that starts me off with a pretty good speed. You can see I'm slightly adjusting with the sticks as I move. It's a bit hard to do that, which is actually one of the reasons that I like the second default control scheme with A to jump, because again, it lets your thumb be right next to the stick. So unfortunately, I didn't make it the whole way across, but we'll try again. So position at the front of the barrel, don't quite look down, grab, move forward, jump. And as you can see, the barrel's at an angle here, so I kind of have to keep adjusting. And now if I want to go faster, I can try in between jumps to just tap the stick to move the camera up a bit. It's a little hard to get speed off of it, but as you can see, doing that, you can get across the gap with prop flying. Just wanted to do a little follow-up on adjusting mid-flight because I'm not really sure if my hand cam video got that across very well. Most of your adjustments, like of your position on the barrel, are gonna have to happen when you land on it. You can move a little bit while you're in the air, but it's not nearly as much as you will when you're actually on the prop that you're flying on. So when you're prop flying, you gotta try to time it so that you do a short tap of the stick right when you land. If you hold it too much, you're gonna go flying. And especially with these barrels, you have to stay very close to the center because since they're rounded, the further off you get to the sides, the more likely it is that you'll just go flying off and there's not really anything you're gonna be able to do about it. The other thing that you might be adjusting mid-flight, and I very much think you should if you're going too slow, is the camera position. This I find is easiest to do when you're at the height of your jump, since there's not really a whole lot you're going to be doing at that point. So if I wanted to look further up here, well, first I'd have to get into a better position on the barrel. There I was kind of dancing around, and that's not a very good time to be making any kind of camera adjustment. So let's try that again. So now, around the apex of my jump, I'll just kind of input a short camera adjustment, and you can see I was almost overshooting the barrel there. You got to be very careful about where your next jump is going to put you. As you can see, that ended up getting me a lot of speed and sent me right into hell. I hope that's a helpful way of explaining that. All right, so the last thing I want to talk about in this video is dialogue with NPCs, because there are a couple quirks that you might not immediately pick up on that will help you get through these a little bit faster. So we're going to use Anthony here as an example. His first line of dialogue initiates no matter what, as long as you're in range. So I'll just get that to play. But you'll notice that I'm standing a bit far away from him.
Holy shit, are you a sight for
and when it finishes, he doesn't continue. That's because I'm no longer in range for his next line of dialogue. Lines of dialogue in this game from NPCs require 3 things, one of which I just found out while recording this. The first thing is you have to be in range of them. I'm not currently in his range. He will never start his dialogue. The second thing is you have to be facing them. I think maybe within like a 180-degree range, maybe a little less. You just have to be facing them. The third thing that I just learned while recording is you can't be moving your camera. If it's moving at all, they won't start talking until you've stopped moving the camera. So, to demonstrate that, if I walk up to him backwards, he won't start talking. If I move my camera like this, even though I'm in range, he won't start talking. However, if I move it slowly like this, keep stopping, eventually he will start saying his line. Right there, as soon as he got on screen. Also, when NPCs are talking, sometimes it's best to just walk away, because they will cancel their dialogue and you can walk up and they'll say a much shorter line and give you the option that they were going to give you at the end of that longer piece of dialogue. So I'm gonna go through this here. And of course, skipping. Also, when you get a list of options like this, you can actually be kind of mashing down if the option that you need is further down a bit before this menu shows up, which is only really good if the option that you need is at the bottom, because I don't actually know when it starts checking for this input, so you might end up in a completely different place than you expect to be. But basically, if you know a list of choices is coming up and the option is pretty far down, you can start pressing it before the NPC has finished their last line of dialogue. The last thing is, some lines you can start and immediately walk away from. That last line of Anthony's there, you can just walk right away. He doesn't have to finish it. You don't have to skip it. I can walk out the door and he will give me the line that says we can now go to the hills. These rules are different for every NPC in the game, so you have to kind of familiarize yourself with what you can skip and walk away from and what you can't. I'll explain that in my tutorial, but it's just good to keep in mind throughout any NPC interaction. Anyway, that's just about everything I wanted to say for the general concepts of a Darkness Any% speedrun. For the next videos, I will be going into chapter-specific strats, walking you through every chapter and how to pull off the tricks, what strategies are available, which ones are safe, which ones are risky, and just trying to explain as much as I possibly can about this run. Thank you for watching.